Okay, so this video is here to explain on what happens if you have Mercury sitting in the third house in your birth chart. So what is the third house? The third house represents your younger sibling. It represents siblings, but specifically your younger siblings. The third house represents written communication, your nervous system, working with your hands, and short distance travels is what the third house also represents. The third house represents your neighbors, your close friends, and social media. I know that there's sort of like I know that there could be like some type of confusion for people who are into astrology, especially early on when they just start learning it, on whether, you know, the 11th house represents social media or if the third house represents social media. Well, in my opinion, the third house represents social media because you got to look at the planets that originally rule those houses. The planet that originally rules the 11th house is Saturn. And, you know, he's all about organizing and hard work and efforts and slow gains and delays. And the third house is all about communication. And think about the planet that rules it. Mercury is a very intellectual, social, communicative planet. So when it comes to social media, the third house more so heavily represents and signifies social media, in my opinion, especially since Mercury represents the nervous system, and that's short and that's quick communication, and you can quickly gather and send a lot of information and knowledge, you know, through social media, through Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. So social media is more so of a bigger significator with the third house than the 11th house, in my opinion. But yeah, that's just about it for the third house, about what the third house represents. So what is Mercury? Mercury represents our siblings, specifically younger siblings. It represents our logical, intellectual, calculative intelligence, practical intelligence, mathematical intelligence. Mercury is very curious. It wants to learn and gather information. It wants to share that information with other people. Jupiter is more so of the teacher. Mercury is just the person who just wants to really just learn and gather information and stuff and just share what he communicated and just share what he learned with other people. We want to gossip what he learned with other people. He's not necessarily a teacher. He's just an oratorical, you know, speaker of knowledge. And that knowledge could be lies or gossip, or it could be something of higher value and stuff. Mercury, like I said, represents quick communication because it rules the nervous system. Mercury is a fast-moving planet, probably the fastest after the moon, because it stays in the sign for about a month unless it's retrograde, then it'll stay longer. And that's about it for Mercury. So that was when you put Mercury in the third house together. Well, the third house is originally ruled by Mercury and Gemini, so Mercury feels very comfortable and strong in its own house that it naturally rules. So here, the emphasis of someone having great skills with their hands or great written communication is heightened. Someone here with Mercury in the third house, they could be probably real skilled with working and doing activities with their hands, or just very good at communicating themselves when it comes to writing or typing on social media. They're probably very good at written communication and working with their hands versus verbally communicating things. Someone with Mercury in the third house, they would be maybe like an eternal learner, an eternal knowledge seeker. Why? Because Mercury aspects the ninth house, because the ninth house is across from the third house. So Mercury will look at the ninth house, and the ninth house is all about higher knowledge, and that could be, you know, religious knowledge, spiritual knowledge, just, you know, college level type of knowledge. Mercury will become curious about wanting to learn about things of heavier depth, heavier knowledge, and he might want to write. He might want to write about it. He might want to communicate about the things that he learned about the world on a grander scale. This is someone who like traveled the world maybe and wants to share what they've seen on their adventures with the people on social media, with their close friends, because that's what the third house represents. Someone here with Mercury in the third house, you know, they might just communicate and share a lot of knowledge with their friends, with their close friends, with their neighbors. They could be very active and overactive on maybe social media, possibly, depending on what's aspecting the Mercury, or what is your Mercury the Lord, what house is your Mercury the Lord of, could probably give us a little bit more light on what happens with Mercury in the third house. But essentially, some of Mercury in the third house, like I said, could be have great written communication abilities, have great abilities and skills of working with their hands. They could have great desire to want to learn something of heavier depth, of heavier knowledge, and want to share that on social media with their close friends. And that is essentially it. Maybe someone with Mercury in the third house, they'll be very curious about learning the things, about gathering and learning things within their vicinity, within their immediate surroundings, because the third house is short distance travel, and Mercury is very curious and wants to learn and gather information and share and communicate that information with other people. So someone with, Mercury in the third house could easily sort of become like a journalist or a news anchor. They'll be able to just find information and news about what's going on around them, and they'll share that with those around them. But like I said, depending on if Mercury's receiving a lot of maybe positive aspects or negative aspects, and depending on what house the Mercury is the Lord of, will tell us or show us a little bit more clearly if Mercury would just be if the person with the Mercury in the third house would be somebody who just just gossips and spread rumors and lies, or or might be someone like Wendy Williams, and just be real trashy and just cause a lot of mayhem. Or they'll be somebody who gathers reliable, good information and knowledge and sources of information and communicate that with other people. That is what you can possibly see when you have Mercury in the third house. And I hope this gave you great insight and clarity on what happens if you have Mercury in the third house, if you have this placement. Thank you for watching.